It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, sponsored by Thompson Sales, Fast Break Sports, and The Pitch. Here's your host, Scott Purrier.
Welcome into another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Purrier. As always, big thank you for tuning in. We're going to talk sports locally this week, talk a lot of Missouri State athletics with the new Directernal. That's a new title, Kelsey. How about Director of External Operations, External Affairs, Kelsey Tolbert? She has been on the scene at Missouri State since February. Kelsey, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just wanted to kind of bring you on, talk about your role, the challenges for you in this new position, and really your main goal. And what Patrick Rensdale said is, Kelsey, come join me and put butts in seats, right?
Exactly. Took the words out of his mouth.
Well, yeah, probably lured you in with some nice things, but ultimately said, let's do this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, of course, in your role, your responsibilities are to enhance the game day environment for fans, sell more tickets, get more people into the stands by any means necessary. And, of course, a big time coming up from Missouri State Athletics with the move to Conference USA. And you're on the clock right now, aren't you?
I'm always on the clock. We got here and we jumped right in, and there's no thing like an off season in college athletics. It's go, go, go all the time.
Absolutely. Well, of course, your background, you come to Missouri State from Appalachian State. You're a Bama grad. You saw some pretty good football back in was it 2012 to 15, I believe?
You got it.
Yeah. And so kind of take us through your, I guess, getting to this point in terms of high school to college to Bama and what led you into sports marketing.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it. I did my undergrad at the University of Alabama. When I went in as an undergrad, my background prior to college was I was a dancer and a cheerleader. So that was my experience. And I knew I had no desire to be a coach and really wanted to work in sports. So the only world that I thought I could work in was physical therapy. So I started my undergrad and have my bachelor's degree in exercise science, was planning on going and being a PT. And through my experiences at Alabama, I worked in recruiting. I worked in marketing, doing fan experience stuff with the baseball team and ticket sales. I really learned that there's a whole world outside of like just your coach and your PT, and found a niche within college athletics and the business side, the external focus side, and really focused there. So post-grad, I went back to Chicago where my family was living at the time and worked for a minor league baseball team up there in indie ball. So $0 in a budget, lots of games, and really trying to, again, put butts in seats in a really competitive market. Worked there for a year and a half and realized that Chicago weather was not built for me. It was the warmest winter on record up there that one winter. And I said, sayonara, I'm moving to Louisiana. But I also didn't like the off season. I like to be crazy busy. College athletics, as I said earlier, there's no thing such as an off season. You're always on to the next one. And that's where my passion was. I grew up in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area, right in that triangle. So UNC and Duke, basketball background was right in my bread and butter there growing up. So I love college athletics, and that's what I wanted to get back to. Went back and got my master's degree in sports administration. I'm sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Maybe not. And did that at Northwestern State of Louisiana down in Natchitoches, which is the film site of Steel Magnolias, one of my favorite movies. And so it was a fun little time. I love the Cajun cuisine. I miss it so much. But there I worked both in ticketing and marketing. So it's kind of a passion project, and you'll see it throughout my resume, is that I don't think you can have sales without marketing. I don't think you'd have marketing without sales. So in the world of college athletics, that is ticketing and development. So I lean heavy on my experience there of understanding what you need on both sides. I met my husband while I was at Northwestern State as well. He works in athletics. His name is Joe and works in the equipment world.
Okay. At Missouri State now too, obviously.
He is at Missouri State as well. At the time that we met, he was working with football, and he got the opportunity for us to move to Atlanta. And he went and worked for future Conference USA foe, Kennesaw State, when Brian Bohannon was leading the team in their FCS run. We were in year 4 of football when we joined there, so still a brand new program from the football team's perspective. And he joined on the football equipment side, and then I had the opportunity to join the department holistically as the director of marketing. So I oversee all of our sports, but really heavy in men's basketball and football. And that's a struggle that we had was we're competing against Georgia Tech, Georgia State, Georgia, Auburn, all in that same market that have historic success in football, in basketball, whereas Kennesaw was the only FCS team in the area, and we were only in year 4. So really, truly trying to put butts in seats. I commonly say I was dragging people by their ears. If they walked past me, I was pulling them in.
Yeah, come on in. Yeah.
Exactly. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and then you Appalachian State, and that's where you and Patrick Ransdell met, correct? The current Missouri State AD.
You're right. So I left Kennesaw to go to App State, and we met there. We started about the same time, and when he had the opportunity to come here, after he'd been here for a while, he called us up and said, "Hey, I have an opportunity that I want you to consider, and come help me build something great at Missouri State."
I think what's great about this is you've been in markets that are very similar in terms of the mission and the goal to what you have at Missouri State. It's clearly in your other stops, it was the university in town, there, Kennesaw and things like that. But you had competitive things around you that made it kind of toughened you up for the challenge. And I think back to what you said about indie ball, independent ball, and getting your start in baseball there. There's probably no greater challenge than trying to get people to come watch guys who, for the most part, really have no future in baseball. I mean, they're trying to, that one out of every 50 of them that might get a spring training invite or something. And to be able to kind of cut your teeth on that was probably a good experience that you just kept building on at every stop along the way.
Exactly. You're right. I loved my time in indie ball. I tell all of my interns and students that ask me, what can I go do? I say, go spend some time in minor league baseball because it'll train you up right.
Yeah. Yeah. And App State, you mentioned Kennesaw State and that they are a CUSA member, just like Missouri State will be effectively July 1. What were some of the challenges that you mentioned the proximity to Atlanta and all the other, the FBS or FB. I'm getting my FBS. I get my FBS and FCS mixed up. The Power 5 schools that were close by, the professional teams. At App State, what were some of the challenges there because of the location?
It's the location. It was almost the polar opposite. Whereas in Kennesaw, everything was very easy and accessible to get to. At App, we were on a mountain. And so it was hard for fans to get there. I mean, if you were not in the town of Boone, the closest, I'm not even going to call it a metropolitan area, but the closest next town that had a decent population was still an hour away. So for a Tuesday night men's basketball game that starts at 6, you're still having to take off work and then getting home really, really late to make tip off and then go through the end of the game. So we really struggled with that outside of Saturday footballs where you can really plan and make a weekend of it. All of our other sports, that was our biggest struggle, was really actually engaging our fan base that was not local. They were in Charlotte, they were in Raleigh. They had to make a trip to Boone to attend a game.
And how far away were Charlotte and Raleigh?
Yeah, Charlotte is 2 hours, depends on how fast you drive. It should be 2 hours. And then Raleigh is 3.5.
Okay. Yeah, and you had alums in both areas too. So you were trying to pull them back out for the.
Exactly. Those are our top 2 performing outside of Atlanta, which is probably at number 3. Again, I mean, Atlanta's 4.5 to 5 hours away. So yeah, I mean, it's a full day's trip for you.
What was a good football attendance for you all at App State and at Kennesaw State? What was the expectation back then at football?
Yeah, App State was very different than Kennesaw. We had a historic success, and going into the year that we started, both Patrick and I, our first game was the biggest game that they probably had on campus ever. We hosted UNC at home. The stadium sits about 30,000 is what the fire marshal capacity puts it at. We brought in temporary bleachers knowing that game was going to be huge. And I think we ended up announcing 40 something, 42, 44, if I remember. And that snowballed. Then we sold out season tickets that year. We sold out every game except for one that year into year 2 for us. So your average attendance there is probably about 36 to 37. We were historically hitting about 110% of our capacity on a season basis. So the expectation at App is you're selling out of season tickets and then you're selling out games. Our last year there, our third year, we sold out every single game, which was massive for us. It was the first time we had done that in forever. At Kennesaw, it's a building program. The stadium fits about 10,000, give or take, depending on how you sit people. I know they've readjusted some areas since I've been there and was there. They've moved the band. They've adjusted student sections. So it depends on how many students you want to actually pack in like sardines. But for us, while I was there, we would love a 5,000 person crowd. Again, it was FCS football then. FBS is going to bring a little bit different of a caliber and an expectation. I know they're hitting now about 7 to 8, which is right about capacity for them without packing in sardines. But for when I was at Kennesaw, the big push was students. And so I love that I can tip my hat on that one and know that we set record attendances for students the 3 years that I was there. They've now beat that. And I love when people beat my records because it means that the success that we built is continuing on. But to know that we had attendance records, I have a newspaper article in my office that sits where we set the first student attendance number, and our fan base that we had at that point just were like, holy crap, I can't believe we just did this. This is awesome. And they wrote a whole article on it. So that's my little reminder that you can do what people say you can't do.
Do you and Patrick talk goals now, attendance goals? Do you have things in mind, and are they private? What's a good crowd for you for that Southern Methodist game on September 13th at Plaster Sports Complex?
A sold out stadium. So 17.5 in my mind is what we need to hit. And I think Patrick will echo that. That's the goal, is for SMU to sell it out, because we know sellouts breed sellouts. Once you sell out one game, then it's just going to kind of snowball into all the other games. But we know that's our biggest game of the year. Yeah, we're going into Conference USA, and Western Kentucky is going to be a big game since it's their first conference game. But there's not many times that you're going to have a top 20 preseason ranked opponent come here from a Power 5 conference. Yeah. Like that's huge in a nutshell, let alone the fact that it's going to be our first FBS game.
And your diehard college football fans that pay attention now to NIL and portal and all that, SMU is becoming a big player in that. I mean, they're getting recruits away from Texas, away from OU, kids that they battled for, because it's a deep-pocketed university with a lot of deep-pocketed alums in a very, higher income area of the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex, and they're using that to their advantage. So, I mean, it's a team talent-wise that not only will probably be the most noteworthy team ever to visit Plaster, but the most talented from an opponent standpoint. And of course, it doesn't hurt if the Bears can go out to LA and play USC tough, or I would love for them to beat Lincoln Riley, because as an OU fan, Lincoln Riley's name is mud still down there. But I mean, you guys would be rooting extra hard in that one just for a good, strong showing. And my gosh, if you pull off the win, it could be a lot of fun on September 13th at home, couldn't it?
That it can. I mean, Patrick and I experienced it our first year at App. We go on and we almost beat UNC at home, and then you go to Texas A&M the next weekend, and you're sitting on the tarmac after that amazing win, and you get the call from College Game Day saying, "Hey, we're coming." Yeah. So it can happen. I remember talking with our external staff this year about us going into Arkansas with baseball and being like, "Okay, let's plan for the what if." Because if we don't plan for the what if and I would love for us to have a graveyard of things, of like things that nobody ever sees, because we're that prepared. We're prepared for the wins. We're prepared for the losses. We're prepared for everything. Because if we're not if we're not prepared, our fans are going to suffer, and they're not going to be communicated to in the right way. So we were prepared, and we were able to activate when we beat the number 2 team in the country and come out with lots of different things, not just lots of content, but we were able to offer a flash sale on tickets, and that moved a ton of inventory. So there's lots of different elements that we're now starting to strategize about and think about for when the wins happen, when the wins don't happen, and then just the in-betweens.
I think a big piece of what you all will have to do is educate the fans on Conference USA. I mean, when I first heard the news of the move, Conference USA to me was Memphis, Louisville, Cincinnati, Houston. That was the CUSA that I originally knew. And of course, all those teams are now Big 12 and other conferences. And Conference USA is made up in a large part of teams that were like Missouri State 5 to 8 to 10 years ago that just moved earlier.
But Jack State and Liberty were playing Kennesaw when we were in the FCS. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it's going to be, would you agree, an education process on, okay, Liberty had their big football run a couple of years ago, that was very noteworthy, and just kind of trying to remind fans locally who's in this league. Will that be a big thing for you think?
Absolutely. And we've talked about that as, okay, July 1, how can we communicate who we're playing? And that's going to be the benefit of also going to the CUSA, is that we do play a lot of midweek games that get us not just ESPN Plus games, but it's linear national television. That the only game on Wednesday is going to be Liberty versus Kennesaw, is going to be UTEP versus New Mexico State. And so our fan base is going to be able to see our opponents on TV week in and week out. And they don't have to go. That's how they're going to learn these opponents too, is there's more opportunity for them to actually appreciate what our competitors are doing, because it's readily accessible.
You hit the ground running, as we said, in February. Got here late in the month. You got to see the Lady Bears finish off their Valley regular season title run there, and the excitement that I touched on it earlier with a guest about Beth Cunningham gets it. That was a fan base that got kind of excited. Well, very excited over having Lacey Stokes and Cayman Beckemeyer, 2 local products that were 2 of your better players, and up and down. And so you kind of got in and saw that, and that goes back to the days. And in this area, and that's kind of where I want to go with this, is what have you heard about the fan base in this area across the board? Because it's not Cheryl Burnett and Jackie Stiles rolling out there on the Lady Bears with 9,000 fans expected anymore. There are a lot of factors that play in now, from youth sports and all the demands on travel and practice with the kids to where parents just can't make it. And the transfer portal and how hard it makes now to get to know kids because they may be here and gone. And the I guess the unbelievable amount of streaming games you can watch on ESPN Plus, including most of the Missouri State games. You're facing things that your predecessors in the past had no idea what they would have done with that. And how do you combat all that? I threw a lot at you. One thing, first of all, your thoughts on the fan base here and what you've been able to pick up so far.
Yeah, so far our fan base, from what I've been able to pick up, is they're hungry. They're hungry for success. They're hungry for more, just overall, more communication, more energy, more everything. We did a fan survey with the basketball fans this year for the first time in 10 years. And so we got a lot of really good data on that, and fans can expect that now as more asking opinions. One of the blessings that I've been able to do is come in and really experience Missouri State as a consumer and as a fan, because sometimes in the world of athletics and this industry, we get so streamlined in our purview of, okay, I got to do this script, I got to get this promo out, I got to do this content piece, that we forget that we're communicating with real life fans that have other things going on. And so what do they want? We may be seeing this really cool promo that a school down the road did, but does that work for our fan base here? And really communicating and listening to our fans is something we're going to do. And our fans want to be listened to. The amount of fans that I've had reach out and say, hey, we're so excited that you guys are here. Let me know how I can help. Would love to give you ideas or love just to pick your brain and talk to you. I love that. It means that our fan base is engaged and they're willing to assist and want us to succeed. So I think that's the biggest thing I've seen from our fan base. But all the struggles that you mentioned, and I'm not even going to say they're struggles, but they're fun little challenges. They're bumps in the road. Every other person that's sitting in my position is dealing with this across the world of college athletics and professional sports. I mean, I got the Carolina Hurricane Florida Panthers game on in the background over here. But it is that, what are we doing in-house? And that's going to be our biggest challenge this year that I hope that our fans are going to see, is that win or loss on the court, on the field, on the playing turf, like whatever, we want to make sure that the experience that our fan base is achieving is amazing, give or take the win or loss, so that when they get on campus, from parking to when they exit campus, everything that they touch, they see, they taste, they smell is all an amazing, memorable opportunity. And so it's working on customer service with all of our staff, all of our third-party vendors, but it's also working with them on value. That's one of the things that we're hearing through this survey is, what's my value? If I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, yeah, I would ultimately love to see a win, but what else am I getting? And that's a challenge that everybody's facing across the world is, okay, yeah, we may be raising prices because of NIL, or you have schools that are adding on fees or X, Y, or Z to help fund this rev share that's potentially coming. But what are we also doing for our fans? We can't just keep asking for more without also giving more. So we're going to give some more.
What was the top one or two complaints from your surveys that you got back? Was it pricing? Was it environment or atmosphere? It kind of summarize what you saw.
Yeah, one thing that we looked at is concessions. We're always going to ask a concessions question, but when it talks about basketball, it's really one of the biggest complaints is concessions and the price, but then also the quality. And we've had those conversations with our third-party vendor over there, and they actually just hired a new GM that I'm very, very, very excited to bring him on board and start working with. And so that they're also aware that they hadn't had that survey feedback either. So they may have heard it once or twice, but to really have that hard data, it's hard to ignore that. And so we're having those strategic conversations on what can we do. We were doing the survey right as Coastal came out with their whole gimmick with football season tickets. So do we go that far? Do we look at something like the Mercedes-Benz and offer a value menu? But what's that give or take that we can offer our fans as well? So concessions was one, and then game atmosphere was another. It was a combined men's and women's basketball survey. So we had some fans that attended both, some that only attended one or the other, but because since consistently we saw the women's basketball net promoter score was much higher than the men's basketball. And you're going to expect that after the season that the men had on the court, but it was drastically different. And so there's a gap there. And what are we doing between men's basketball that we're not doing at women's, or what does women's have that men's basketball doesn't? And how can we, and not copy and paste because they're two separate sports, two separate fan bases, but take the key point and change it over in men's basketball. But one thing that we did hear and we did see, and I've seen it, and I think everybody knows, is our fan base is aging. They're older. And so we have a need to grow our fan base within the 25 to 44-year-old demographic, the millennial, the young fans, or the young family fans. And we saw that a lot. And a lot of the comments is our fans know that. And we compared age demographics. So we took the survey as a whole, but then we also broke down that survey into just that specific demographic and how different we asked fans to rank their thing that makes them decide not to come to a game all the way from top 10 to the least. And overall, In the survey, if you just took every age, parking was number one. But when you just look down to that 25 to 44-year-old demographic, it was pricing of tickets and value, and parking was actually way lower. And so it's really us just having those conversations internally and saying, okay, yeah, parking looks like it's the biggest issue in the world right now, but in 5 years, is that still going to be the issue? Or do we really need to hyper focus? If this is our goal, is to get this 25 to 44-year-old age range, let's put some more focus into ticket value.
And this is an area that Al Davis is right. Just win, baby. I'm sure that's every market, but people want to follow a winner. And there were some comments this year critical of the crowd at times on the men's side. And that just kind of makes fans go, well, if you'll win, I'll come to more games. And so I imagine, obviously the biggest thing to help you is W's, and that helps everybody will go. You've got to have some coaches, though, that are excited to have an emphasis on the game day environment and doing things to get more people in there. And yeah, I just love Ryan Beard. I think he's perfect for that football program with his enthusiasm. And are their facilities on par with other people? No, but he knows what they need, and he's going to go get it. And I guess, one step in the right direction is that new turf. I think you had a video from the very top, and it looks like, that's a big step toward making that a facility that's caught up with other people, isn't it?
It makes such a difference. When I first got here, obviously the old turf was still there, and we did some tours, and you walk in with that new turf, and it's just, it's so soft. It is so nice. So the team's going to love it to play on it. But yeah, it pops. And it makes, without doing a ton of other work to the stadium, which is coming, but it just makes a difference already.
One of the things that's been harped on in this area for years has been, the student involvement, and getting Missouri State students engaged to where it's important to come to football and basketball and baseball games, all those in particular. I think they've done a great job with the tailgate atmosphere for the students and the fans now with the Bear Fest Village outside the stadium. I still think there's more students that don't come in, they tailgate and go back and do whatever, or they come in for a half. But what are your plans with Patrick to engage? Because what is the enrollment, 22, 25,000 in that range?
Right around that 22, I believe, is what we're sitting at right now.
How do you convince them that it's an event and it's a FOMO thing from Missouri State Athletics in this first year of CUSA?
It's starting January or June 2nd, which is the first date of orientation. Had I been here earlier, it probably would have started earlier, but it's really getting in with them the minute that they step foot on campus, that they are engaging with athletics in a fun and exciting way. Because this class isn't going to know anything different than Conference USA and FBS football. Yeah. So really, really, we're focusing on this incoming 4,000 to 5,000 class of freshmen. And if we can win there, we can win with the rest of our students, because they're going to come bring their big brother, big sister from their sorority or fraternity, or their RA, and really just engaging with them and saying, hey, this is the thing to do. You're senior down the road. We love them and they're great, and I don't want to forget about them, but we got to focus on this incoming class, because they're a quarter of our student population. And by the time that they're seniors, 4 years down the road, we will have done that 4 years over, and nobody will know anything different than FBS football. And that football is the thing to do on a Saturday in Springfield.
The tailgate areas for the students and the general fan population are different areas, right?
Yeah.
For football. What are your thoughts on that? And is that something in the future you try to figure out a way maybe to blend them in together?
Yeah. So what I know, without ever seeing a football game, from my understanding, is students used to be down by Glass Hall until the construction started happening, and then they moved them behind Freddie. We've talked with a lot of student groups. Most of them like that back in that little area. One thing that we're looking at is expanding that to include, it really gets eaten up by the large student organization. So your fraternities and sororities, your traditions council, your Bear Apocalypse groups, those that can really organize and have a large body of students to help organize. But what we're having, and we're having this miss with, is the student that just wants to come and, hey, let me pull up a car and tailgate with my friends. And they don't know where that opportunity is. It exists, but we got to communicate it out a little bit more. So technically it's the same. It's all Bear Fest Village, but yes, students have their own little area. Students can come over into the general population and hang out and engage. But they're going to stay where they're going to stay. But yeah, I think there's opportunity as it grows. We're going to have to figure out more space. I know we're at capacity now. And so what does that look like in year 2? What does that look like in year 3 as fans realize that this is the thing?
Well, and as a dad that will have a freshman daughter over there this fall, I know our plan is, because we've got a son at Arkansas, and we've seen that tailgating, and we've kind of learned that there's a time where they want you around, then it's time for mom and dad to go away.
Yes.
And so I guess that does serve a good purpose at Missouri State games too. Okay, well, let's go see her. And now it's time to go hang out with the adults and let them have their fun too. But what do you hear in any feedback? And again, you've only been here since February, from the student side as to why they haven't gone in particular?
I think the biggest thing is we haven't communicated. It was almost a shock to me when I got here. I just kind of assumed that we were communicating with students on a daily, weekly basis, outside of like social media. But like, are we emailing them? How are we constantly communicating with them? And I quickly realized that we did not have access to our student emails on campus. And we worked with Patrick and President Williams to correct that. And so we saw it actually for the Mizzou game. Right before the Mizzou game, every student on campus got an email from the athletic department saying, hey, we play Mizzou tomorrow. Let's come out and support the baseball team. And hey, guess what? Student tickets are free. And we saw a record student attendance that game. Yes, it helps that we're playing the team up the road, but it also was a reminder to students in their inbox what they're already checking on a daily basis for classes. That's an easy way for us to communicate with all 22,000 of them that we hadn't before. So that's the biggest thing that students are going to get this year is communication from us. They're going to get a weekly reminder of home events. They're going to get a reminder, hey, you got a football game coming up. Here's things to know. Here's how you get your tickets. Here's where your tailgate information is. Then in the past, we were just marketing it to a general fan on social media and expecting the students to know. I think that's the first thing. And that's probably the biggest thing is that they truly didn't know. Now I can blame some of them and say like, there's thousands of ways for you to know, but I know we know from a sales cycle, like it takes so many times and so many touch points for a person to see it. So yeah, you're scrolling through Twitter on Monday and you realize that there's a football game. Well, are you going to remember that as a student that also has 6 classes and a lab and a sorority function? Like we have to constantly continue to hit them over the head with it. Email's the first thing. Beefing up our social media is going to be huge. Bear Apocalypse, which is our new student organization and student group, is going into year 2 of their real like organizational structure. So they're going to be massive as well to really ingrain themselves within the students and help communicate our directives out as well.
Sure. You touched on it earlier, but this is a league that will play some Wednesday night football games. I think the Bears have one at home. I noticed like October 29th, maybe. Is that Florida International?
Yep.
I think comes to town. The Bears play a couple on the road, don't they, on those Wednesdays? Yep. That'll be another challenge in the Bible Belt of this area, Wednesday night and football. But if you want to see it, you make it happen, right, on Wednesday nights. And by then, you hope late October that buzz is still there, carrying over from September and early October.
And we dealt with this at App as well. Sunbelt does midweek games as well, and their Conference USA likes them. I expect us to have a few moving forward, and they're fun. They are a guaranteed night game when sometimes you're not guaranteed a night game ever. And so it's a fun time that we're getting the new LED lights in the stadium. We're going to be able to play with that this year at that game. We're going to be able to, it's a Wednesday, it's in the middle of the school year. This year, at least it's close to Halloween. So maybe some of my age will take their kids and come to the game. But I know a 7:30 game is hard for my kids because it's bedtime. And so we know that it's going to be a different market for us. We're going to heavily market that game to students because we know students can come out and attend a Wednesday night game and then hopefully still make it to their 8 a.m. class on Thursday. They have a little bit of better bounce back than I do.
Explain the relationship, because I don't think fans fully understand it, even since they've been here now for a dozen years or so. But what Learfield does and what Missouri State Athletics internally does. I mean, you're part of the Missouri State internal team. How does that work together with Learfield?
So Learfield is our multimedia rights partner. And so basically what that means is they are, they're a third-party vendor, but they are they're Missouri State Athletics staff. But they are going out and they are creating strategic partnerships within corporate partners for us. So they sell sponsorship packages. So when you traditionally see like the video board commercial or the public address announcing saying that's a first down Bears presented by Ford Automotives or something like that. Those are sold through our Learfield partnership. And they do radio broadcasts, but they help us in so many other ways with game giveaways and just connecting us with individuals in the community and helping form that holistic partnership additionally. So they are a part of our external team and they work with every single one of us day in and day out to really help produce the environment and the atmosphere that we want at game day.
You know, this is really a new, bigger commitment by Missouri State than it's had in a few years into your position. And, you know, you got to have coaches that buy in. And just wanted to ask you about the level of excitement from Ryan Beard and Conzo and Beth Cunningham and Joey Hawkins. Are they all pretty pumped up to have somebody that their job is to get more people at these games?
I have never had a coaching staff so excited to have me on site. And I my constant joke is like, yeah, you guys are all excited that I'm here, but you're really going to be excited that my husband's here when you see what he can do. But yes, like obviously Beth and Conzo were in season when I got here. So I really just let them kind of finish their season. Then they had to go and recruit and in the world that we're in today, really build their teams. So I have had conversations with them and really starting to build that relationship now as we go into the off season. And I actually emailed them the other day and was like, hey, I know you just ended, but like, where's your schedule for next year? I would love to see it. Whereas Joey and Ryan, I jumped in with both of them and at the get-go, and they've been great to work with. Coach Beard's been, I throw an idea at him. Hey, let's go. Okay. Hey, we got the crossover game between football and baseball. Joey we get Beard out there to throw football and a baseball back and forth. And can you guys film videos together? They are both very like, Kelsey, you tell me what to do. And as long as you can tell me why it's worth it, we'll do it. And I can't ask for other than winning, going out and winning, can't ask for anything more.
Tell us again about your family. Have two little ones, right? And your husband. What exactly is his role with equipment at Missouri State?
So he is on the Olympic side. So the way that we've split it up, we have two equipment guys here on campus, Josiah and Joe, two J's. Josiah does football and then all sports over in that building. So soccer, track and field, whereas my husband does baseball, softball, beach volleyball, both basketballs, basically anything over that is housed in Hammond's offsite or in Great Southern Bank Arena. So he's there, and then two little ones.
Have you settled into the Ozarks? Kind of got a feel for the area so far? Or?
Yeah, we are. We're actually hopefully moving into a house here soon, and over in the west side of town. But we have loved being here so far. I think that's the biggest benefit. My mom was up here a couple weeks ago and she was like, this is what having like a structured suburban city. Like you get the park districts, you get all of the other things that we necessarily didn't get in Boone. Not give or take, but I'm just excited there's outdoor pools. I'm a hot weather summer girl. We did not have an outdoor pool in Watauga County in North Carolina, so I'm ready for a pool.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I know you're going to do great work. I know you got a lot to do this summer. The branding for Conference USA, is it well down the path? Is there still stuff to do in that regard? Where are you guys on that?
Branding is never set in stone. It's always a moving target because you're always going to work with what's trending and what's new. But yeah, we have had constant communications with the conference. I actually went to my undergrad with one of the conference staff members that we're working very closely with. So it's a fun full circle moment. But there's a lot of fun things that our fans can experience and we'll see coming out July 1.
Very good. Kelsey, thank you for your time and best of luck this summer. And we'll see you over at Plaster this fall.
Thanks, Scott.
You bet. Kelsey Tolbert, the new Associate AD for External Relations in Missouri State. Always a pleasure to hear what's going on over there and big things. I know that Patrick Ransdale's relationship with her is a huge plus because they're on the same page. And I think he's saying, Kelsey, let's go find him. Let's get him in here. That's a good thing for Bears fans and Bears athletics, having people pulling those strings behind the scenes. We're going to thank our sponsors now. I always appreciate Fast Break Sports, the Pitch Pizza and Pub, and Thompson Sales. Of course, Fast Break Sports over on South Campbell is your home for all things sports cards and collectibles, new baseball cards, old cards that you need to have graded. Go in and see the guys at Fast Break Sports, and they'll get those things protected and taken care of for years to come. The Pitch Pizza and Pub is in the Southern Hills Shopping Center off East Sunshine. Great pizzas, calzones, lunch or dinner, cold beverages, and great meeting rooms over there with all their TVs. So if you got a sporting event you want to see coming up, head on over and see Brian and his gang at the Pitch. And Thompson Sales, our latest sponsor. Of course, the Thompson boys have been dealing since 1919 with GMC, Buicks, Cadillacs. Go see Miles, Tyler, and the family over at Thompson Sales. Over 1555 East Independence. They're your home for new and used autos and service after the sale as well. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on the program.